pedo? If you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Lizzie and I am a Margiela collector. I am a Margiela connoisseur, a Margiela fan, and today of course you can tell, I have a bit of a thing with collecting. So today I want to share with you a little bit of the story of the Maison from my perspective. This is a totally biased opinion. Of course I'm going to give you some facts, but take it with a grain of salt because I am very, very opinionated. Here are my 5 cents on two major, when it comes to public knowledge about the Maison. This documentary, We Margiela, came out in 2017. I saw it until 2018, and this is Margiela in his own words. Two very different perspectives, and that's what I want to talk to you about. So, buckle up because this is going to be a long one. I've known consciously about the Maison since 2007. I was 17 years old. Of course, if you go back to this book, which is Martin Margiela, his collections, he left the Maison in 2009. So when I came to know about his existence, there was a lot for me to dig in. But then at the same time, it was very hard to come across some information, not to mention get a hold of garments, which was amazing because there was no hype when I started collecting, so there was no speculation on the prices of the garments, the resale value of them. In the end of the 2000s, there was not much information about the Maison Martin Margiela. You know what? Every time I say Maison Martin Margiela, my head is like the correct pronunciation, because it's a French maison. The correct pronunciation would be La Maison Martin Margiela. When I talk about Margiela, I'm very passionate about it. I think I look like this, but in reality I look like this. And this is biased because I have formed valuable relationships with some of the Maison members. I'm very thankful for that. La Maison Martin Margiela was a very secretive, niche, cult-like brand. There was no major logos, there was no big fashion spread or campaign with a name all over it. It wasn't a in-your-face brand. It was very much like if you know, you know. Brand worn, known by artists, music artists, and some art world people, intellectuals, because the brand really spoke to a very niche audience. Of course, I want to consider myself one of those. So little 17-year-old me went into a major hunt, and I live in a very small town in Mexico, so it was not really easy for me to have a interaction with the brand. The first time that I ever had a in-person experience with the Maison was in 2010 when I was in New York, and I went all the way into the Greenwich Village. It was not a shopping area back then, even though it seems like it was not long ago. You could have easily just passed by and not even noticed the store, and you could have gone in and could have really not understood what it was all about, and much less understand why the prices were luxury prices, when the ambience was very industrial, underground vibes, which I personally love and adore. Now if you go to the New York boutique, it's a very different experience. I mean, good for them, because back then the Maison was not really making that much money. And I mean, 2010, most people didn't know if Martin had already left. There were so many rumors, but those rumors were just circling the industry, which is another thing that I would like to mention. The fashion industry is not just the publishing, the magazines. That's not the whole of the industry, even though much people tend to look at it from that perspective. The thing with La Maison Martin Margiela was that, first of all, if you think of any brand and any designer, you know what that designer looks like. The stores are in the main streets, they're in the main fashion spreads, a very in-your-face, very memorable logo. But in the case of the Maison, like, I have this beautiful Darcel Disappoints illustration when he was in Colette, and you can see Martin is backwards and there's just stitches on his back. That was a logo, and most people didn't really understood why 4 stitches wear like a logo because that seems so wrong, and that was a very subtle perspective nuance. I started actively collecting Margiela in 2011, 2012 when I went to Paris and I was there working. There I got to understand much more about the codes of the Maison. I got to meet some of the collaborators, the members of the Maison. That was amazing for me because I got to see more than was out in the public for everybody to know. I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling and I'm not really saying anything, but I'm trying to go in a chronological order. Somewhere when I was like a blogger and I would document some of my recent acquisitions of garments and I would do my selfie photo shoots and all that, very DIY by the way. I somehow grabbed some of the members' attention that they were no longer part of the Maison. That's how I got to meet some of them, which was very weird and amazing how a little girl in a small town would have this connection with some of her youth heroes, because personally what I was doing and what I still do are like messages in a bottle, hoping somebody in the other side of the pond would get the message, save my life. I had a lot of knowledge about the Maison. I had uncovered some of the mysteries because, you know, Martin, being reclusive as he is, and the non-disclosure agreements that some of the members had, I couldn't really like share any of this, not even with my friends, and I know that they didn't even give me a tenth of what now is public if you've seen the documentaries. Fast forward to 2017. Some of the members, by the way, mentioned that this was happening. This is Min Film Office, a Netherlands documentary film company. We're working on a documentary about Maison Margiela. I was number 60 out of 999 people on the first batch because they after a second round because it sold out of mailings, which I don't know which one comes first, so I think this is number 1. And you subscribe and you would get this little envelope all the way from the Netherlands to Mexico. There would be some photographs which I have framed. Some of them are here, and this is the big one. Archive photos from the collectors or some of the members. This is Vicky Deroli. This is a postcard, which is amazing. A lot of OG tabbies, index mailing, the description of the photos that you received, interviews that were transcribed to this thing. If you know by now, probably you already know, Martin Margiela started La Maison because Janie Mayrens was the igniter of his creativity, and she believed in him because she had a store in Belgium, and Martin started with shoes. After he graduated, before going to Jean-Paul Gaultier, somewhere between like graduating and Jean-Paul Gaultier assistance and starting his Maison, he had a line of shoes. Those are the ones that Rei Kawakubo bought from Jenny. She was business savvy. That's why she became Martin's business partner. Because if you know, creatives' business is not their forte. If it is, I mean, kudos to you. There were 3 mailings that you would have to wait. They would send this as they were editing the documentary. So there was a lot of anticipation building up to the final product, which would have been the documentary. So in the second one, I have to tell you, the excitement that would fill my soul whenever I was tearing up the envelope was beyond. And I remember that back in the day, I shared that on my IG stories. Anyways, so this is number 2. Here's this little paper that somebody hand wrote, flat collection code, and here is in Dutch. This is the index mailing explanation of each of the postcards that you received. Some of Jenny and Martin's, and there's some tabbies worn, a little tag. This arrived on the 25th of May, and these take like a month to get to where I live. This is from August. This is number 3. And here we can see the lovely This one came in the third mailing. This is a two-sided poster. The screening, when it finally came out, it could have been the end of 2017 or maybe the beginnings of 2018. But it wasn't until 25th of August 2018 that there was a screening in Mexico City. Made it happen in the Museo Tamayo. This one is also from that screening. The face of my first presentation. So I was very excited to go to Mexico City. When this documentary came out, a few weeks prior to the release, Jenny Myrons passed away, and that was so sad to learn because, I mean, if you watch the documentary, you probably know how important Jenny was to Martin and to all of the members of the Maison. Ralph Siemens was one of her proteges as well. So much so, Jenny Myrons' house, I'm not sure if it was gifted or sold to Ralph Siemens. Jenny was loved by many. I didn't get the chance to meet her, I wish. But she was a key element in the fashion industry in Belgium. This documentary was an open window, but it was the closest you could get to lifting a curtain to something that was unknown and mysterious, and the first insight of the Maison. There were so many moments that I loved about this documentary. First of all, I think that what even made me drop a few tears was when they go to the factory with Miss Diana about Martin and how the process of creating their collaboration was so rich for both of them, for Martin and for Miss Diana. I also loved when they are talking to this Italian customer who has a boutique in Italy.
Mi sono innamorata pazzamente.
And she says, I wanted to kill la Jenny.
Per cui ho seguito il consiglio e ho ridotto l'ordine. L'avrei ammazzata la Jenny in stagione perché avrei venduto di tutto e di più.
Everything sold out, and she was talking about the Margiela effect from a retailer's perspective.
Tutte le donne che erano insicure ed erano un po' bruttine, finalmente si sono sentite belle, si sono sentite sicure, che erano anonime o brutte, erano imbarazzate, e invece con Margiela si sentivano sicure. E per cui è stata una cosa veramente unica, straordinaria.
My favorite part that really made me drop too many tears. And in the documentary we can see Vicky de Roditis, who was a member in the 90s, and she has kept every single piece intact and she cherished that. And I know that she's very fond of her time in the Maison and she holds no grudges in comparison to other members. And this is what happens when it's normal that stories always have two sides. This side showed the not so amazing and romanticized side of the Maison. Of course, I didn't like that. Of course, at the end of the documentary, I felt like there were so many grudges against Martin. I didn't like it because I knew from other members the other side of the story. I felt it was a little bit ungrateful. But yes, at the same time, I understand. They're talking about how it was so hard to make ends meet. They brush a little bit over the time of Martin being at Hermès, Kim being a little bit dispersed, and Jenny being tired of always keeping everything together and being the one responsible for holding it in, until she was too tired and she wanted to sell the company. And that's what they did. She sold her share to Renzo Rosso. That's when everything started to change. But back to happy times. Sophie, Jenny Myrons' daughter, she was a member, she was a model, she was a big part of the Maison, and she shares a lot of happy memories. And I love to see how this project that lived because of passion and trust. Inge Grognard's participation was very insightful. Her experience was as a friend of Martin and as a collaborator for the runways. So she wasn't like a big part of the process of creating a collection, but she was a key part of the success of the effect of the runway presentations. Also, Lutz was a part of this documentary, and I understand his side of things. He mentioned something that I don't really know much of. He says that he wasn't fully happy and satisfied with recognition, of course the monetary reward. And that is part of being under the roof of a brand. When you're working and you're collaborating, you're not the namesake, so your name is not going to be there right in front of there. Many people know that Lutz was the one who came up with the idea of the t-shirt, because he was the t-shirt and knit designer. It is very easy, well, I don't know if it's very easy for everybody to know, but I remember that I did a little digging before this documentary came out. I knew who did what, who was the one designing for shoes and bags, and who was designing stores, and who was the architect. I felt that there were too many grudges on that documentary, and I didn't like the end note. The Maison portrayed collaboration, this team working towards the same vision, of course under Martin's direction. Of course, they go deeper in how business actually works. I did talk about this documentary with some of the members of the Maison who felt the same way that I did. They didn't left feeling like, what a great project. The feeling this documentary leaves you with is like, hey, Martin is very selfish. Poor Jenny, this was all very unfair to her, and the other members, they were abandoned by their parents. That's not like a great feeling, which I understand. If they feel that way, that's like completely valid. However, in 2018, in July, the Margiela Galliera exhibition took place in the Musée Galliera, and this exhibition was a complete retrospective on Martin's work in the Maison. Before this exhibition came out, there was this other exhibition, Margiela, the Hermes Years, in the Antwerp Museum, was shown in the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, Decorative Arts Museum in Paris, along the same period of time when this exhibition took place. I knew that Martin was working in this exhibition because I got a heads up from one of the members, and I knew in my core that if I were to sneak in, I would have seen him, and I regret it. I didn't go, but that's the prize when you don't live in Paris, right? This book came out, which is a very complete retrospective on each Martin Margiela collection from the years, his first collection in 1989 until his last 2009, so 20 years of work in this book. Whilst he was working very hands-on the retrospective, Rainer Holzheimer filmed him doing so, filmed the whole process. You don't understand what I felt and what I believed that this documentary was, because it's Martin Margiela in his own words. It's very explicit. This is his side of the story. He is considered to be one of the last créateurs. The fact that he got to work, he was very involved along the curator of the exhibition. He got to say what he had to say. Of course, the downside of almost a 2-hour documentary against 20-something hours of audio and film. I really need the extended version. I need everything. You don't see Martin, you see his hands and you hear his voice. That's the most we've ever gotten. Of course, there are some photos, and some of them are like out in the public on the internet. He doesn't care about being on the public's eye, and I totally understand where he comes from. He's very passionate about his work, and you can see him telling all of the stories. In this documentary, we get to see a glimpse. He has OCD because everything is cataloged by year, by season. He has everything. I really loved to see everything. We get to see some of his childhood memories, all of his toys, his notebooks filled with his explorations with fabric and identity. We get to see a very early Margiela model of Barbie with a Yves Saint Laurent inspired jacket, which is his very early recognition of what he wanted to do when he grew up, was inspired by Courage. He also shows his early uni projects where he starts to experiment with upcycling and how all of this work informed what he ultimately did with the Maison Margiela and what he stamped his name on. Because the documentary is called Margiela in his own words, what his story was and how his process along the way, how it was like. A little bit of his exchanges with Jean-Paul Gaultier, his relationship with Jenny. In my opinion, I got a feeling of gratefulness from him to his team. Of course, at the end, you see this writing that says merci à tous qui m'ont aidé à faire mon rêve en réalité, or something like that. So whilst this documentary lifted the curtain of a window, this one showed us what Martin's work really stood for and what his motivations and what his approach to everything he created, basically. I've watched this, well, I don't know if I should admit this. Okay, so it was the beginning of the panorama, and I believe that they did the screening in Paris right after Fashion Week or something like that, and the pandemic had already started. The first screening was in New York, the 3rd of November or the 5th, I don't remember. And I remember that right after the documentary screening took place, I got a message from one of the members who sent me the spoiler that I already did a video about Martin's artist work shown in the Kunst in Bielefeld in Germany, that right now is going to be shown in Paris in Lafayette Anticipations, which is a Galerie Lafayette's art gallery, which is a whole other bag. So in November 2019, this was screened, and it wasn't up until, I believe, February, March that it was shown in Paris, but there was a pandemic. And then it was released for online streaming in the United Kingdom. However, somebody who I will thank, who did everything wrong but at the same time everything right, whoever that is, I don't know who did it, but downloaded it and uploaded it to a adult content website. Yeah. I think the name was Food Fetish or something like that, because you know the tabbies. I remember it was midnight for me, and I got a heads up from a friend who sent me the Dazed article. And I went to Twitter, and of course there was someone who had shared the link. I watched it until the end. From Twitter, okay, I didn't, you know, if you know how these things work, you will know how these things work. If you link a video of this kind of platforms, you can stream it from Twitter, not directly in the you know. So I did that, and I watched it from start to end, through and through. I was sobbing. I felt my heart full. I had this big smile on my face, and then I realized that they had taken this down minutes before maybe right before I finished it, but because it had already loaded, that's why I could watch it. I don't know what happened, but I did. I watched it. I was very happy. And of course, I mean, I'm living in a country where it wasn't available for me. I thought that was the most punk thing to do. And a part of me thought that Martin would have been proud, but then I know that he probably isn't. But you know what? I did the right thing, because it was available for streaming from Amazon Prime, I think, from the US, and I watched it there. If I'm going to give my 5 cents on each format, I feel that this one is far more on brand of, you know, the Maison and the aesthetic. This against this one, which is plastic and it's just paper, and there are some of Martin's sketches, but this is all very messy. This is not really what I would have liked. Not on brand with Martin. I see that they used red, which is Martin's favorite color, but this CD, no, I don't like this. But you know what? I can watch it no matter what. I really don't want to spoil any documentaries in case you haven't watched them. I strongly recommend you to watch Margiela first and then Margiela in his own words. Not everything here is as it seems. And of course, this is just one side of the story. Here you get the insight of a house, a brand, the ins and outs of what makes a brand successful or failure. And here you see a person's inside scoop of the creative process, the personal road, the meanings, the purposes of their art. Here you understand that why this is Margiela. Like a brand is a collaboration of many people that are involved. I don't... how can I say this in a right way without it sounding beachy? When you work for someone, you know you're working for someone. You're not gonna get recognition, and that is not the purpose of working for someone. If you are an individual and you want to work for someone, you are aligning yourself to the brand, to the project. And if you don't, and you want personal recognition, go and start your own project. If you have something to say that is not what the brand is saying, go and start your own project. But if you're working for someone and you're expecting to make a name out of that, when you know that the brand's code is anonymity, I don't know why you want your name and your face to be out there. I don't know if you know, but rumor has it that Matthew Lizzie left the Maison after it was made public that he was the head designer, which, don't get me wrong, I love Maison Margiela era. I love until 2015, and I was very taken aback when the Maison Margiela turned into Maison Margiela. I didn't know how to feel about it. I sure knew that I didn't like it, but then I understood that when you have your name, like Helmut Lang and how Jill Sander did it, they had their name as a brand, and then they sell the company. They cannot use their name for any other project. And when they turn Maison Margiela into Maison Margiela, they give Martin his name back. So he can now happily use his name loud and proud with his new art exhibition. And I'm very happy and I'm very excited for all the things that he has to do.
Martin vind ik wel een kunstenaar. Mode is niet toevallig de manier die hij gebruikt heeft om zich te uiten. Maar hij zou morgen evengoed een conceptuele kunstenaar kunnen zijn. Een grote kunstenaar. Martin is iemand die alles op een kinderlijke manier... Martin die kon beantwoorden aan alle genres. Dat vond ik zeer uitzonderlijk. Die zou bij iedereen groot geworden zijn, maar bij iedereen iemand anders.
Something to notice, the end scene in here is very tricky. That's the art behind a filmmaker, because of course they have to leave it on a cliffhanger, but that's not how it happened. You know, he doesn't say that and throw his glasses like, oh yes, I'm coming back. No, he's not. And if he does, welcome back. But if he doesn't, yeah, whatever. He did great already, so yeah. Anyways, I don't know. I feel like I've talked and then at the same time I feel like I haven't said anything at all, because I'm trying not to, you know, I'm trying not to do so many spoilers, but then again, I want to tell you a little bit more about this thing, which are amazing. I just got this on the mail. I'm very happy. It has finally arrived. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and well, until the next one. Peace.